Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce this webinar on Niger Arzikin Haske Fund for clean cooking and off-grid solar. Before I start, let me inform you that there is simultaneous translation in French. Mesdames, Messieurs, ce webinaire a une traduction simultanée de l'anglais vers le français. Des instructions sont affichées dans le chat. I would like to acknowledge the presence of many participants from Niger and other countries in the region, among which representatives from the Ministry of Energy, the DG of Enersol, the Director of the Division of Cooking Energies at the Ministry of Energy, the PIU Coordinator and her team, members of the Arzikin Fund Selection Committee, private sector players active in off-grid solar and cooking. These bear witness to the dynamic nature of Niger stakeholders and their commitment to the energy access agenda. I was not part of the preparation of ASKE, but I'm the task team leader of ASKE since its implementation in 2022. What I've heard is that there were many passionate discussions within our development institutions that my colleague will mention during preparation. It was clear that the private sector needed to be mobilized and encouraged to take its share of the effort, but that it also needed public help to overcome economic constraints. Hence the need for an off-grid fund. The need for including clean and efficient cooking came naturally to build on previous experiences and complement the project-by-project approach. Such joint solar cooking fund did not exist yet in the sub-region, at least not at the national level and at the envisaged scale. It is thus a new approach. I will now give you a glimpse of the ASKE project and the context in Niger. As senior energy economist and task team leader of the project, and then I will hand it over to Yuri Endem, senior energy specialist, who was part of the team, and to Laurent Duric, senior consultant, to discuss the Arzikin Haske Fund setup and implementation. And we will have Bamboo, the fund manager, Madame Anya, that will also present, and then time for Q&As. We ask the audience to stay muted and write the questions in the chat to be answered during the Q&A. Slide 1, please. Slide 1. Okay. So slide 1 was a snapshot of the Niger electricity sector at appraisal. There was a 19% electricity access rate with strong disparities between urban and rural areas. Nigelec, the national utility, was financially viable at the time, yet the national power system was fragmented with weakly interconnected networks with high technical losses across the system. There were some mini-grids, solar home systems, but limited work in clean cooking and limited experience with IPPs at appraisal. Slide 2. I'm also showing the energy compact that was approved in June 2025. Niger is one of the first countries to prepare a national energy compact. The compact is aligned with the National Electricity Access Strategy, SNAE, that was developed at the time of the preparation of the ASKE project. No key objective of the compact is to connect some 14 million people by 2030 to raise the electricity access rate to 60%, of which the World Bank has committed connecting 4.3 million people under N300. Second objective is to increase the share of renewable energy generation to 30%. Third objective is to increase access to clean cooking solutions to 12% of the population from currently 6% by promoting individual LPG kits and improved cook stoves. And fourth objective is to create an enabling environment for private sector participation in the energy sector. And this is very much aligned with the National Electricity Access Strategy. Slide 3. That's in this context that the ASKE MPA for Multi-Phase Programmatic Approach, a national MPA, was designed in 3 phases in 2020 for 10 years until 2030, which is also the time of the SDG and the time of the Energy Compact. The total program cost of the MPA that matches as well the ambitions of the compact is $842.5 million, of which phase 1, ASKE, which we will discuss today, is $317.5 million, with $310 million of IDA, grant and credit, and $7.5 million of an ESMAP RETF, Recipient Executive Trust Fund. The objective of this MPA, multi-phase programmatic approach, is to increase access to sustainable, reliable, and affordable energy services in Niger, with key expected outcomes, bringing at least 7 million people access to electricity by 2030, having at least 10,000 public facilities provided with new or improved electricity services, and having at least 5 million people provided with new or improved clean cooking solutions. Next slide. And this is where we come to ASKE 1, which is the first project of this three-project multi-phase approach, with its 4 components. Component 1 is the grid component that is done with Nigelec, reinforcement of transmission and distribution network. Component 3 is done both with Nigelec and the National Rural Electrification Agency, Ampere, which is to increase access to solar mini-grids in rural areas. Component 3, which is the one that we will discuss intensively today, is to reinforce the ecosystem for development of off-grid solar and clean cooking. And component 4 is the technical assistance component. Component 3, we will focus today on component 3. It is doing solar electrification of public services, off-grid solar for households and productive uses, access to clean cooking, and in particular, we'll present the Arzikin Haske Fund, which you can see within component 3, that is now in place since August 2025. I will now hand it over to Mr. Yuri Andem, Senior Energy Specialist, to continue the presentation.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Good afternoon and good morning for those in DC. So I'll take you to the next 3 slides, which will basically talk about the situation of the solar energy sector at the time of preparation of the project and the clean cooking one. Starting with the solar sector. So we were lucky enough at the time of preparation to have an ongoing project which already targeted improving the ecosystem for the solar energy, which was the project NESAP. So this project focused on providing, through a line of credit, access to funding to the SMEs, solar energy companies, to be able to then introduce additional products in the country and be able to take them and deploy them across the country. So that was the initial objective. And you also add additional capacity building and others, let's say, soft support to improve the ecosystem, such as the exemption of taxes for solar products. So we can say that this project was successful because 98% of the line of credit was absorbed, but it also gave us, in the things that didn't work, but it gave us a good visibility of what was happening in the sector and what needed to be done to continue developing the solar energy sector. So one of the problems that we face is that when the solar companies were able to access the fund, they were able to order equipment and bring them into the country. Where they've now faced problems was into the distribution to be able to deploy these products across the country and be able to now sell it. So what we found out, even with the fact that there was a exemption of taxes for those products, the quality products that were promoted through the project was still about 8 times the cost of, let's say, low quality products that they were competing with in the market. So this allows us to see where would the gap were in order to help the private sector continue to expand the work that they're doing across the countries and in the rural areas. So, and that's how we were able to now develop the activities that were now implemented under ASKE, which is introduction of an RPF to be able to now tackle the fact that there was a low capacity from the rural communities to be able to afford these products and be able to have a more competitive quality product in the market, and be able to also support on the supply side the private sector companies to be able to establish their distribution lines across the region. So this is where we were able to now design the different activities to implement under ASKE. I'm going to go a bit fast through the presentation so that we leave room for questions at the end. So next slide, please. So for the cooking sector, unfortunately, we did not have a project per se to get us to know a lot more of the reality of the sector, but we were fortunate to have an environment where a ministry was already committed to the sector. They had a dedicated division created and already operational. And there was also a study that was able to allow us to segment the sector into 3 parts. And that served as the basis for our design of the activities that were included under ASKE, focusing on clean cooking. Next slide, please. So one of the common things that we found is that both sectors, although very different from one another, they tackle the same household and the same area. So we thought, since access to let's say the capacity of affordability of the targeted households were the same, we thought that it would make it simpler to be able to implement this thing as one single fund, meaning that we would have one single fund manager, one single implementation verification agents, and be able to now target, within the operational manuals, we separate these activities so that they don't, to some extent, block each other from advancing. So it's one single fund, but they are able to actually move at different pace depending on how each one is moving. So I'll hand over to my colleague, which will now give you a little more details on how the implementation is going. And then I'll still be here for the question and answers. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Yuri. We were muted on our side. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sure.
So moving into the implementation phase, now that we've given the context of overall. So in terms of the implementation timelines, one key point was that the fund manager recruitment was much slower than initially anticipated and expected. It was planned at preparation to have a recruitment period of 1 year, creating of a documentation in 6 months, leaving 3.5 years to do the work, the implementation work. So 30% of the time on administrative tasks and 70% of the time in implementations. Several events happened. You can see it in the graph below. I won't go into details on it to keep time for discussions. But basically, one of the key elements was the OP 730, which came from the July 2023 events that led to a long period of non-disbursement and cease of activity. That's a period in dark blue in there. But it was also combined with more regular classical project delay, like ministerial changes, contracting rule change, subdimissions, all those kind of things that happened. So even the creation, the project implementation unit took almost a year. As a result, the net impact is that the plan situation was reversed. About 70% of the time was used to do all the steps towards the documentation and the recruitment, and then now we have only 30% of the time that can move on towards implementation. So we're now in April 2026, and so we're now in April 2026, and we have now all the disbursement condition met. We have the first payments which are coming out, and several things going on in terms of disbursement. Next, please. Thank you. So for the actual fund setup, we followed the principles that were enunciated by Yuri a bit earlier. It was a rigorous structure that was created very rigorously, but also flexible. It was strictly designed and negotiated with the step by step by the Niger counterparts, many of them who are online right now listening to me in French. With the aim was to have a strong governance and clear and transparent processes for the private sector to understand how things work. Given the time constraints, the fund was just initiated with 2 windows and just 1 facility, with the RBF facility in September. It was inaugurated by the minister, which may be online. I'm hearing, but I don't have full confirmation of that quite yet. The Minister of Energy. So with 2 big pillars, solar and cooking, and it was initiated in September 2025 this way. Now it's fully operational the way it was planned, with 2 financing facilities, resource-based facilities and catalytic facility, as well as 4 windows that helps with the 2 different pillars, solar and cooking. And we currently have 2 sources of funding active. The point there is that this is a setup that is flexible in the sense that you can add more facilities or more windows as needed, or subtract some depending on the evolution of the market. Next, please. I'm going to go quickly through the key elements of implementation. All call for proposals follow a common design, that follow whether it's solar or cooking. Each are discussed and tailored to a subset of objective and conditions that follow what we were planning to do. And it follows, of course, the intents of the PAD, of the project document, but takes into account the current situation of the market that changes over time. The implementation team decides on the budget for each call for proposal, the eligibility criteria, companies or products, and the type and level of subsidies. You have an example on the top right in the table. I will not go through it. We can come back to it if you want, but we're trying to be quick on all of that. Also, you have quite a few call proposals available on the website of Arzikin Haske, the name, which is the name of the fund. I forgot to mention. All call for proposals also follow the same attribution process, which is after the close of a call for proposal, a review team jointly from the fund manager, the PIU, and the DEC, which is the Energy of Cooking Ministry team, reviews all the proposal, analyzes the eligibility, then makes financing review based on the strength of the proposal, and tailors the budget and the proposed allocation to each of those groups. And then this becomes detailed funding proposal that are sent to the selection committee. The selection committee is composed of key Nigerian stakeholders, and I've seen that some might be online, actually also as well, that have a knowledge of the sector and of the overall business environment. And they review the proposal, the funding proposal given by the review team, and discuss and amend as needed the amount that are proposed for funding to the candidates. Yeah, that's what I would say. And then after that, there's a decision vote, which is the official decision. And following that, the candidates are informed of the results, and the contract is signed with the grantees. Okay, next. Please, thank you. So after those few elements, very rough, and you will receive the presentation to be able to read all the details. Where do we stand as of April 2026 as of now? Again, I won't go through the table. We can come back to it as needed. But we are moving full steam ahead. As of now, we have 5 call for proposals issued, 5 call for proposals which have been issued and processed. 3 for which the contracts have been signed and have been allocated to the company. So in a total of 21 companies are supported for a total of $7.5 million, which is roughly an estimated amount of 130,000 kits across solar and cooking. So all different kind of kits of all different elements. And now we have 8 more call for proposal to issue over the next 3 to 4 months. So very rapid movement. Okay, just wanted to mention one thing, because this is a fund. The final results in terms of number of kits are not set. It will depend on what type of kits are purchased by the companies and which ones are sold by the companies, but also in terms of the demand of the households. Will they prefer cheaper sets with more sales, or more expensive sets, which then will decrease the quantity of sales that can be done with the available fund? Couple of interesting features that I would like to mention. The pre-financing, which I think is an important value to the market, which includes direct payment in currency to suppliers. So part of the purchase of a stock to help the company do their stock can be done directly in payment to the suppliers. The sales eligibility at the time of a call of funds, which is a way to encourage risk sharing with the companies, in the sense that they can anticipate that if their proposal is good, they can start selling and it should be eligible. If a proposal is not strong, obviously there is a risk of not being supported, but that's meant to kickstart activities and geographic bonus to help move the transport, the cost of transport towards more remote areas. Next, please. So in brief conclusion, to remain in the timing as promised, what had to be adapted and a few lessons learned. Okay, there was no change in the global design, but things had to be adjusted as we've seen since time constraints and change environment. First, adapting to circumstances, there was a faster and stronger national counterpart involvement, which was a good thing, but created at times some role confusion. It is difficult to be a positive, support and implementer in the design of a fund when you don't see this fund working before. So that created a lot of discussions and a bit of delay, but it's extremely positive because there's then therefore good ownership on the part of Niger. The fund setup remains result-based, but it has been focused more on what I would call the upstream level to fit the status, the fact that the market is still in the early stage for many of it, especially in the cooking area, in the biomass cooking area. So there's a support for starting things, not just disseminating. And then there was a plan of having a pure demand side RBF, which has not yet been implemented. We will review the lessons from NDEV in this respect. It's a matter of lack of time to do proper targeting. Finally, the time crunch has pushed us to and I say us, the whole team, to prioritize arrival of kits on the market rather than specifically focusing it to the poorest or to the host communities and refugees and so on. This is still something to be done, proper targeting, but at that stage, the need for kits available in the market was the first element. A few early lessons that we can share. The first one is do not underestimate the time needed to go through administrative phase, and that is across all different administrations. The more administrations you have, the more it will take time, whether national administration, World Bank administration, and also even PIU administration. And that, I think, is an important element in terms of reality. There was a lot of discussion on the cost of a fund manager, especially on the part of the counterpart in country. It is true that fund manager, IVA, support TA is expensive and can create, some elements of questions. However, it is very important to keep in mind the value added of those entities. If they are good, they can really help set up the systems very, very quickly. Last point, with a handheld instrument such as an RBF, which is a bit complicated in setting up and so on, when things unexpected arrive, each stakeholder react differently. And unfortunately, the risk adversity tends to be to be different among different stakeholders. The government is worried about waste, for instance. The private sector is worried about the fact that funds are not arriving on time and so on. So this tend to accumulate. So we have to keep this in mind. And finally, specifically in Niger, the security issue remains a fluid concern, and that will require us to remain careful and flexible. That's it. I'll pass it on to Léon. Before we pass it on to Léon, are you online?
Yeah. Thank you, Laurent. Can you hear me?
Yep, very well, Léon. Very well.
Great.
So, Monsieur Léon,
sorry, I was traveling, so I just arrived. Yeah, so I'm Leon Biaou, lead energy specialist covering Niger, Burkina, Mali, and Chad.
We can't hear you
In
too
this
well, Leon. You
meeting,
might
while
need to, yeah.
can you hear me?
Speak louder, Leon.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
but
On
just
my
speak
side,
louder.
yes,
Speak
we
louder.
can hear you clearly.
Okay, so what I wanted to say is that we have been honored to have Excellency Professor Hawa Amadou, Minister of Energy, who is online. So we'll try to finish the presentation. I will invite Ania to come in to share her thoughts and challenge her to go fast so that we can give the floor to the minister also to address the audience. Thank you. So Ania, can you come in?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I can hear you, Leon. All good. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present. So we can, I guess, from the examples on the pictures, I guess we can move to the next slide, and I will focus more on how we actually what we do to expand the access to clean cooking and off-grid solar solutions through the fund that is actually financing private sector players. So first of all, maybe just a couple of words on the company itself. So BCP started as a more traditional impact fund manager firm, providing equity and debt funding to private sector in different countries and different sectors, including energy access since 2007, as you may see on the chart. But then we realize and we recognize that the private sector is not always ready for debt and equity, and that the capital is the only capital is not enough. So we need to focus on sector development and market development activities as well. So it's how we emerged. Also, we added also management of sector development programs in different countries, World Bank financed, and also in cooperation, obviously, with the governments, but some DFIs and other AFIs. And Haske is the latest edition, as you see, that we started our work in 2025 on Haske. Next slide, please. So here, generally, what we do, we apply a standard classical investment process even to the sector development funds, and I think it's very important that we implement best practices to instruments that are needed to develop the sector. So if we look at overall technologies and instruments provided, so you can get the details on the slide. But in Niger, we actively work with solar home system distributors of productive use equipment, and distributors of clean cooking solutions, distributors and local producers as well. And luckily in Niger, we already, even if it's an early stage development for the private sector, we already have the companies, and as you saw in Yuri's presentation, companies active in the sector. So we could start immediately from RBF, so result-based financing. But we also activate catalytic grants because targeted support is needed for certain subsectors or certain subjects that are actually challenges are faced by the companies. So, and how we do it, so we go to the next slide, and here I would like to present the perspective of the private sector to the fund, and just to focus on 3 points that really matter to the private sector when implementing investment funds and when implementing RBFs as well. So first of all is predictability of cash flow. as Laurent mentioned, so we implemented pre-financing, and that's very important because for many companies, working capital is a challenge. Securing working capital is a challenge, and also they have important working capital needs as they need to bring the stock to the country, bring the equipment to the country, and result-based financing is actually disbursing after the sales of eligible products are verified. So it's a very long cash conversion cycle. So that's why we need to focus here and find mechanism to give visibility and predictability of cash flow to the companies, and that actually unlocks even more investment from the shareholders, from other international investors, etc. So second point, and I guess Laurent covered that quite well, is the flexibility of the program, of the fund. So we need to remain flexible and adaptive to the realities of the market, to the challenges that are faced by the companies. Because if we take away that part of their challenge, they can focus on growth. So they can focus on making things happen. And let's not forget that actually companies bring the results to the fund, to the program. So it's actually their achievements that give us the results. And that's why we need to adjust, as I mentioned, to emergency support, targeted areas, and these challenges are different across the country and even sometimes across the regions. And last but not least, and it's where the role of the fund manager, independent fund manager, is quite important, is transparency. So we actually ensure that clear rules are set and they are communicated and implemented. So we play more intermediary between public and private sector, and we ensure that all the communication is flowing, and there is a separation between policy making and execution. So the government, and it's very important, should set the strategy and the key objectives that needs to be reached. But then with the independent implementer, they can also, once the set of rules is in place, they can be sure that everything is implemented, and they can actually stay outside of day-to-day work and operations. And if we have all these three key factors combined, then, and here we can go to the next slide, we can come to the key success factor, which is trust, actually, that is built among different stakeholders, and that actually ensures that the results are achieved, because, as I mentioned, the ultimate goal is that private sector companies, they grow their activities, their operations, increase investment into their activities, and that actually, to give a concrete example, that gives benefits not only to the companies but also to the government. And we have noticed that in other countries, like in Burundi, for instance, when within 1 year, out of 22 beneficiaries of the program, 15 reached the scale needed for VAT registration, and that means that they significantly increase the taxable revenue base. So that creates more fiscal revenues to the government. At the same time, they connect more people to off-grid solar solutions, clean cooking solutions, providing more access to the populations, and they create jobs, because it's also about workforce. All these companies, they employ locally, obviously, and in many occasions they also go through networks of female-led cooperatives, groups, etc. So creating even more impact in terms of economic and social impact on the ground. So basically, key takeaway for me it would be to say that we always need to implement best practices in whatever we do, and that unlocks actually the potential of all involved stakeholders, and that actually helps us achieving the results. Thank you. Thank you very much. I would stop here.
Thank you very much, Ania. Just before I pass the floor to Excellency, I just want to add that, for us in ASKE, the ultimate beneficiaries are the population, okay, the end users, because this is where we want to provide a solution to create job. The private sector, we put in place the mechanism to tap into the private sector as development agents. So that we have at a certain point a cross where the interests of the private sector match what the population also need. So with that, I will turn a little bit in French.
Excellency, thank you very much for your presence, and thank you for this time you dedicate to us in this presentation, which is aimed at providing a solution to off-grid electricity and providing clean cooking to people, given the instrument that the government is giving us. Over to you. Thank you very much, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the delay in my attendance, but this is a huge pleasure for me to be with you here and to attend this webinar dedicated to Arzikin Haske project. As you all know, we are engaged in the dynamics of electrification. Our objective to achieve 12% of clean cooking energy and 12% of renewable energy in national energy in ANESOR. So I followed the presentations and the exchanges and the discussion with a lot of interest, and through those exchanges, we have seen experiences which will work for the benefits of our beneficiaries and for both sectors, whether it is for the clean cooking or the renewable energy. I don't have much to say. I would like just that we together will move towards a future where each household have access to this clean cooking, clean energy. Thank you very much, Excellency Minister. I can guarantee that your presence is a huge comfort for us, and thank you for your time. For the time that you dedicate to this presentation and for interest in what we are doing and also in the agenda, Mission 300 agenda. Thank you very much.
Cette présentation, ce qui dénote de l'intérêt et de la priorité que vous placez à ce que nous faisons et surtout aussi dans l'agenda de la Mission 300. So thank you very much, colleague online. So now we have completed all the presentation. So we have a few minutes for a Q&A session. So I will maybe, because of for the sake of time, I won't put my own question. I will start with what I have here in front of me. And thank you for those who already dropped the questions. For those who have also extra questions, we can follow up later on with you. One question that I got from Federico, Federico wants to know if the RBF facility has a law to attract new international off-grid company into Niger, or whether the primary target is the local distributor. So this is one question. Maybe note that down from the presenter and for all the presenters, and then you can come in as you feel it. And then there is another question that I suppose will go more to Yuri. The relationship between the fund, the Arzikin Fund, and the work that the World Bank has been doing, the ROGEP. I know that you represented also the background of where we are coming from with the NESA project in Niger back to 2017, and how the quality assurance framework is applied for both off-grid and clean cooking, and the assessment of the effectiveness of the RBF fund. When we discuss, if we have time, I can also provide my own reflection. And so the last question that I have for you guys is from Regina. Previous question was Raluca. Regina, what is the level of grant provided, and how do you avoid market distortion? Or is there a minimum capacity tier that has been supported to make sure that we count that as access and after sale support that is provided to the end users? I think Sire has a last question. What are the main difference between the RBF and the catalytic grants, and what was the level of subsidy in the RBF? So this joined a little bit the question asked by.
Thank you, Leon.
So I give the floor to the presenter.
Leon,
your internet connection is really bad, Leon, but maybe let's switch in French. But for the first question on the access to other new companies, and also the difference between RBF and the catalytic grant. Anya, can you answer to that? Yes, of course. So maybe let us start with the first question. Is it better in French or in English? Shall I carry on in French or in English? Let's stay.
No.
In English.
Okay, restons en anglais alors. On va laisser les traducteurs.
Okay, let's move back to English. Yes, sure. No worries. So the first question on the companies and the companies profile. So as I mentioned, in Niger, we were actually lucky to have companies active in the sector with a certain volume of operations. Okay, slowdowns, etc. But we already have existing ecosystem. We already have companies. They usually work with international suppliers, as it is the case for most of the markets, because solar products, for instance, are produced internationally. So we have this cooperation between the suppliers, but local distributors, they existed already for a number of years. So we didn't have to actually attract new companies here. So we started with the Nigerian companies. And then the second question is on the catalytic and RBF, right? The difference. So RBF, it's a result-based financing, meaning that we compensate, let's say, we incentivize the companies to sell more, so we pay for the results. So it's a kind of bonus that is paid on each sale of eligible product. And catalytic grant, it's more for strengthening the companies to where we provide its milestone-based grants usually that focus on strengthening the structure, the organization. So it's not the payout for the product sale. So it's about reinforcing the company, the institution. Hope that answers the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, Ania, while you are still on the spot, can you maybe provide a little bit insight on how the level of grant has been set?
Yes. So the level of grants, it was presented by Laurent for solar. At least it's what I saw in the presentation. So for Niger, we focused on the price of the product delivered to Niger, because we wanted to address also the transportation challenge there. So the level of grant is based on the price of the product, cost of the product in Niger, delivered to Niger. And we see that for different categories of products, we have different levels of incentives. And here also it depends what we would like to promote in coordination with the government. We discuss the levels of incentives and decide where to put the accent, the focus on what kind of product, like what kind of services is needed more by the population. So then incentive would reflect this guidance from the government, and we try to guide the private sector companies. As you see here, here is a categorization for solar products, but we would have the same for productive uses and also for clean cooking. The logic each time is a little bit different because we need to adjust to the sectors that we target and to the objectives that we would like to achieve. So here, clearly, you can see as a matter of example, the most costly, more powerful systems, they would attract less subsidy in percentage terms, but more in absolute values, right? Because we try to promote entry-level solutions, and we also provide geographic incentives. So we try to promote access to solar products in the regions, in the provinces. So which is in line with the objectives of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Laurent, anything to add?
In the interest of time, I don't think I will. Also, our colleague Yuri was going to answer a question on ROGEP, but I think he said he has lost the connection, unfortunately, being on the trip. So I will answer it on the question of ROGEP. We are not formally collaborating with ROGEP per se at that stage, but we're exchanging information, and a couple of companies that have support from our side also have support from ROGEP. So we definitely are looking very closely at avoiding double financing. Same issue with NDEV, who also has had some activities in the solar area, and it is looked at specifically by the task team when they do the financing proposal. They specifically look at who else provides funding and so on. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, Laurent, maybe on ROGEP, I can add one thing also. You know, this work in Niger is coming from a lot of study and previous projects. Okay, so and through since 2017 when we started, we have been a number of barriers. Our first instrument that
Leon, I think we've lost you.
You know, one.
Okay, we briefly lost you, Leon.
We provide yes, unless you try to address the change that is needed. So for 95, we identify the affordability issue as one of the key issues for the companies themselves and the household. And then, but we are not covering anymore the line of credit, and Roger has a line of credit. So this is where we make also the link between the two. We are in a very nascent market. So what I will say is that no effort is enough. So more is needed, and it's a long run. It's not something that will sustain, in my view, in the lifetime of one single project. It has to be really consistent support and addressing the systemic barrier that the market is facing. So this is what I wanted to add on that to provide further background. So I don't know if there is any other question left. We have 3 minutes to close. Unless someone has a very burning question, maybe let's take the rest offline with the team. We can, for our tax teams, you know, there's a possibility to exchange notes, and we are at the early stage. The fund just started, so I hope that in a few months we'll be able really to have another conversation and see where this is bringing us. One word that I retain is flexibility, particularly in a FCV context in which we are operating. We need to be flexible and adapt to changing situation. We need also to make sure, as we learn, that we provide the right incentive for the private sector to address the barrier that they are facing in providing the solution to the household. So I would like to thank the private sector company who were able to connect. This instrument is for you. It's a response to a lot of work that we did, a lot of market sonding that we did in the past. We hope that you will make all good use of it for the well-being of the population that we serve. I continue to insist on that. We do all this because we want really to support and help the population escape from the energy poverty and improve the daily life. So with that, I would like also to thank again, Excellency, the Minister for attendance, and the team also for the great work putting all this together. So the work continue. Implementation is another story. I think that as we move, we'll discover many other things that will enrich the way we support our country. So thank you very much for your participation and the question that you asked. So we look forward to re-engage later on, and also why not have a bigger session where we can bring in different models from different countries so that we can learn from each other. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Leon. So I think this closes the session for today on time. This will be recorded and accessible. Thank you, everyone.
Merci à tous.